Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. This is the long-awaited political reading. I apologize for the delay. February 27th. I apologize for the delay, but I wanted especially to do a reading and just focus on, I'm going to hit a couple of different areas pertaining to Canada and Canada politics, but I wanted to take a look at the whole roadblock situation. And I needed to consult with somebody so that I had a little bit of a clearer understanding, because part of the way that I access my information or I receive my information is with feelings and words, but I also receive a lot of it with just pictures. And so I needed to have some understanding sort of the parties involved, because it really is like a triangle, right? And so I needed to have a conversation so that I could figure out, when I was receiving the pictures, what the pictures were saying and who they were sort of pertaining to. So I'm aware that there have been some people really looking forward to this, and so here we have it. Let's get on it. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the blocks, right? The blockades. So this is sort of the short version of what's going on. The oil companies want to put a pipeline that runs from Alberta through BC. I'm thinking out to the coast, okay? And Jason Kenney, who is the Premier of Alberta, really wants this. And he really wants it because that's basically what's going to solidify or strengthen his position here in Alberta. Because, he promised when he was getting elected that he was going to bring back, the oil industry, and he was going to bring back prosperity. And that's what he ran on. That's what people heard. And that is why he got elected. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a fan of this man's. I'm sorry, I'm not. Because part of what he did was he sold a bill of goods on one side, and he made it sort of like Trump, right? And he made it he got everybody all excited about one aspect, and nobody was listening or paying attention when he explained exactly what he was going to destroy and cut and claw back on in order to help create one situation. So it's ironic, right? Because the very people that he is trying to create this resurgence of this oil industry for are also getting hurt, on the other hand, by all of the other clawbacks. So, but there you have it. Okay, so if you're a big fan of his, you're probably not going to like my attitude in this reading. Just a heads up. So that's Kenny's position, right? I got to tell you, I don't even know what the Premier of BC's name is, because for him, I'm just going to be reading his energy. And so what has happened is there is this push because they want this pipeline to go through, because it's going to create jobs, it's going to create prosperity. Where they wanted the pipeline to go through was a section of land in BC that is pristine. It is absolutely pristine. It is untouched. And so, and I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize, the Wet'suwet'en, or that tribe, it's their land. And that community, that indigenous community, they don't want that thing going through their land and destroying yet another tract of untouched land, okay? And anybody who has actually seen pictures of what northern Alberta looks like would understand that it really does destroy the land, okay? And I understand very clearly. And in fact, I have family who have been impacted by the slowdown in the oil fields. So I am not unaware of the impact that has had. But, it really is sort of horrible when you actually look at it. And yet, you know what, they're doing all kinds of things to try to reduce the pollution, and they're, you know, I guess replanting trees or whatever they're doing. But the point is that they're destroying something that has been in place, untouched for eons, to accomplish this. So that's what's going on there. So the hereditary chiefs are against what is happening. But the tribal chiefs, hey, came to an agreement with the pipeline people to go ahead and do this. And so it was confusing to me. Like, I was having a little bit of trouble sort of understanding how you had these two elements and they weren't actually in agreement. Also, the reports sort of make it seem like it is just this one group of hereditary chiefs that are opposed to this. So it's not. All of the hereditary chiefs from one end of Canada to the other are in solidarity with this, because they feel, and rightly so, frankly, that the Indigenous community has been not treated well. And while we attempt to reconcile and make restitution, there is sort of still remaining a wee little bit of an attitude of we will do this for you, as opposed to we're going to live in harmony. And it was very interesting, because when I was speaking to this lovely lady, hi Margaret, she referred to us, the white people, as settlers. And I had never sort of been referred to that way. And it was a little startling for me to have kind of that label put on me, although it is absolutely an accurate label. And so the idea is that we were supposed to live in harmony. The people that we we invaded their land, and we were, there was supposed to be, again, this co-creation, and that didn't happen. And so they have issues that have not been addressed literally for a couple of 100 years, and that's a problem. The other side of it is you have these blockades, and they're blocking Via Rail and CN Rail from being able to get Canada's supply chain. It's being impacted because the trains have been pulled back, there have been layoffs, so there's even more economic disruption. So that's kind of the short story. And so I'm sharing that with you because I needed to understand it so that I knew what I was reading. So let's start there. So my first question really is, what's going to happen here? What's going on with these blockades? What can we expect? And is there resolution? What is that going to look like? Come on down. Okay, so Aboriginal blockades oil. Aboriginal blockades oil. Aboriginal blockades oil. Hang on, please. Apologize. The word is Indigenous, not Aboriginal. Sometimes my brain and my mouth, I swear, are not on the same planet. Never mind on the same page. Indigenous people, my mistake, and I apologize. Okay. So this is what we have here. You've got the Six of Pentacles here, literally talking about the fact that there is supposed to be a bit of a give and take. And the government is holding, really, seriously, the government is holding all of the cards, and they want to hand out, the money, the possessions. And frankly, that doesn't sit well with not only the Indigenous people of Canada, but frankly, it doesn't sit well with a lot of people, because, of course, the whole oil industry feeds right into the whole global warming crisis. It feeds into the fact that the land is getting stripped. And so the government, honestly, is sitting between almost like a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, If they support the oil industry, they're going to antagonize all the people who don't want to see that happen. If they support all the people who don't want to see that happen, they're in a position where they're going to negatively impact the prosperity and the growth of the Canadian oil industry. They're in a very hard place. What they're not kind of understanding, and this honestly, this does apply to both sides, is there's a lot of judgment being passed, and I'm not exactly sure that a lot of the judgment is clear, right? There is almost like not enough awareness, honestly, of both sides of the story by the average Canadian. So you take a little bit of what you hear from, global news or CTV or whatever it is, and you kind of feel as if you're informed and you have the whole story, except you aren't and you don't. And the judgments are going to continue to ramp up, okay? I'm sorry to say that. This is not going to be resolved next week. Now, this is causing a lot of anxiety and stress for both groups, all right? Because Kenny has decided that the way he's going to handle this is that he is going to play strongman and tough man. And that not only upsets the communities that are directly involved, but frankly, it upsets a lot of people, because as we continue to evolve as a country and grow, there really is a sense that, we really have to come together and start acting and behaving like a united peoples, respecting both sides of the equation and trying to come together and finding a solution that is workable for both people. But right now, emotions are running a little bit high and it feels very, very topsy-turvy. And this is sort of one of the realities of life, okay? And you can honestly apply this to this situation to what is going on in the States and a whole bunch of other places around the world. When somebody's security is threatened, your financial security, your safety, your freedoms, your ability to have the life that you want to have, or hold on to the life that you have created. When that gets threatened, everybody goes into a fear reaction. And when you go into a fear reaction, that creates that sort of mob mentality. In fact, I feel like I'm repeating the exact same words that I just said in the US video, however. And so what you have is this uptake and this agitation and this anger, and people start to dig in. They get really entrenched, and that makes it that much harder to work together to kind of find some sort of resolution. Now, is the Canadian government going to be able to resolve a couple of 100 years of treatment that wasn't just? No, they're not. Not over this one issue. They can't. It's not going to happen. And are the Indigenous communities going to feel that they have been heard and that they have been respected and that their concerns have been taken seriously? In its entirety, no. It's not going to happen. Frankly, because you can't solve 200 years in a couple of weeks, because there's now these blockades going on that are impacting Canada's, supply chain. So what I'm looking for in these cards is some indicator that there is going to be some resolution. And look at me, aren't I excited? So in this case, the King of Pentacles represents Justin Trudeau and his government. Justin Trudeau's birthday is December 24th. That makes him a Capricorn, an earth sign. Pentacles connect to the earth sign. So this is the card that I have sort of chosen, if you will, to represent the Liberal Trudeau government. And these cards are very, very supportive. So what they're saying is that there is strength that is going to come from both sides both sides of the equation to create not resolution, but to create at least a bit of a step forward, something that feels at least somewhat sincere, and so that it creates an environment where there is some forward movement. When that happens, what's going to happen is the railways are going to get back into operation. The pipeline people are going to have to take a step back and really consider, if not the offer that was presented by the hereditary chiefs, they're not opposed to the whole thing. They're just saying, instead of going this way through that land, can you not go this way? And, the pipeline people are like, no, we can't. And so the hereditary chiefs are basically saying, well, you're going to, or there's, you just can't do this to yet another parcel of virgin land. But this card bodes very, very well for sort of like the strengths, the best of both, at least coming to the table and having a conversation and having a communication. And it looks as if there is going to be at least enough work done to move this forward. Is it all going to be resolved? Yeah, no. But you can't resolve anything as long as you're at loggerheads with each other and you're trying to force a situation. And again, that does apply to both sides, because all that happens is everybody digs in and emotions get riled up and people get angry, and then things very, very quickly escalate. So this actually bodes really well. I wish I could tell you by what wonderful magic this is going to happen. I'm not getting that information right now, but there definitely is a feeling that, this really is going to find a resolution. And the bottom line is there's going to have to be a compromise made. There's going to have to be some acknowledgement given to past promises that have not been kept. So there's a feeling here that, this is not going to be the end of the world. I can very much see, so you have two kings here, right? And so it feels very much like the two kings, meaning the two cultural sides, all right? Because you have the commercial side, the capitalistic side, the oil companies, the government. And then you have the indigenous people and their power people, their chiefs. And it looks as if, we actually really can come to some sort of a compromise, and they're equal, okay? They're both kings. So it's an indicator that there is going to be somehow an agreement reached where the two can come together in a less adversarial way. Now, it's an interesting thing because, Trudeau is often accused of being anti-oil, right? And, so anybody who is really pro-oil, because it's their livelihood, it's their income, it's what supports their family, et cetera, they don't like him, okay? And they don't like his policies. But he is not as spineless or even mindless as some people think. He is, however, part of the Indigo Generation. He is part of that indigo wave of souls that came. Part of what the Indigo's purpose is to find new ways to solve old problems. And so he is viewed as being ridiculously sensitive and not strong. But what he is an indigo who has actually some clarity on the fact that as a country, we cannot continue to depend exclusively on oil. We have to start looking at green alternatives, green solutions. And it is not either or, okay? And that's what people have to start to realize. It is not you can do this or you can do this. It has to be a phasing in and a gradual phasing out. You can't just cut off the oil supply and say, everybody go green. It's not going to work. It's not. I mean, you have houses and vehicles, you have buildings, everything is run and heated with oil. And we are a cold country, okay? Like I'm telling you, in the summer it can get really hot, but you know, any of you guys who've been watching my channel know that here in Alberta, we were dealing with like minus 40 and 50 degree Celsius temperatures, which is below, for Americans, that is like below your, well, okay, so minus 50 in both metrics are the same temperature. Okay, so we're talking cold. So you can't just say, okay, well, let the sun shine and everybody's going to go solar and you know what? We're just going to not have any more oil. It doesn't work that way. There has to be sort of a building up in one and a lessening of the other. And that is, I think, ideally what Canadian people are looking for. They're trying to find a way to sustain what we have long enough in at least a healthy enough manner so that we have the time and the resources to implement some new, greener solutions. Okay, so and there is the promise and there is the hope that that can happen. But again, it is going to mean that people on both sides stop being so defensive and be willing to try something new. Look at it from a different perspective. And there is no reason, based on these cards, for me to suspect that that is not going to happen. You've got the Wheel of Fortune here, so you've got good luck coming to the situation. You've got new ideas, new approaches, new solutions, blessings, literally blessings coming to the situation. And you have people who are prepared to start looking at a variety of ways to do it, not always sticking to one thing, but literally looking at all of the different tools in their arsenal to make this work. So this is looking like, I can't tell you it's going to be resolved next week, but I also don't think it's going to go on and on and on. Let's face it. The very people who are not getting their propane and their supplies because the railways are not working, it's not like the indigenous communities have their own personal supply. They also are being impacted by the shortages, okay? So there's going to be a movement forward. There is going to be a way that it comes together. And I'm really, really hoping, I'm going to put a bit of a timeline on this and say sort of as we move towards the middle or end of March, it really does feel like there's going to be some significant resolution, and resolution, frankly, that both sides can agree to and compromise to. The NDP, under Jasmeet Singh, are very supportive of sort of the whole green movement, and they are not in favor of, you know, kind of destroying another patch of virgin land to run a pipeline through. Especially when there is an alternative, but you know, I don't know why the pipelines don't want to take the alternative. I don't know if it's going to be more expensive or whatever, but frankly, the alternative basically is through land that to some degree has already been kind of destroyed. So if you're going to keep on, if you're going to put something through the land that's, you know, already kind of been a little wrecked, why would you not do that as opposed to go through land? And you know, and this is the thing, right? It doesn't even matter who the land belongs to, although it rightly belongs to that indigenous group and community. But just why would you do that, right? I mean, anybody, just think of your own land, your own home, your own property. If you have an area that is already worn down and, you know, why would you then wreck something right beside it that isn't? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But like I said, buck up. It looks like compromise is coming. Now, there's a couple other things I want to quickly look at. So this coronavirus is causing havoc with the stock markets, okay? So the Dow Jones and whatever the other one is in the United States lost almost 2,000 points in like 2 days. The TSX, which is the Toronto Stock Exchange, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, lost 600 points. Okay, so, and we're not the only two countries. It's happening everywhere. You got the Chinese manipulating the money markets. Trump calls it brilliant and beautiful, but you know, that's what they're doing. The information that's coming out is not all accurate, so things are not quite as contained and controlled as some would like to believe, but the other side of it is, the whole world is not going to be exterminated, you know, by this either, okay? So frankly, financially, we're going into a period of a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of concern. And so let's see if we can get a handle on, you know, what that's looking like, okay? So Canada's economic situation. Yeah, there's a loss. Okay, there's loss going on right now. And it's going to recover, but it's going to recover, I think, maybe slowly. It's not going to recover as fast as it was lost, if you understand what I'm saying, okay? It dropped really fast. The recovery is going to be a little bit more step by step by step. But in some ways, I almost feel, and I don't know anything about the stock market. I'm not wealthy enough, frankly, to have a whole bunch of, you know, frankly, money in the stock market. But it feels almost as if maybe there was a bit of a correction that needed to take place, and this could give it the opportunity to be able to turn that around. Excuse me, sorry. So you've got lots of pentacles here, but they're pentacles connected to hard work, and they're pentacles connected to evaluation. And so that's what that's looking like for me, okay? So, you know what? There will be recovery. This is not going to lead to a depression. I don't, frankly, even see a recession, but it's just going to take a little bit of time, and people are going to need to be patient. You honestly, I mean, I don't want to cover this and make this flowery. You can anticipate some increased costs in the next little while. Things are just simply going to get a bit more expensive because one, you have a supply chain. You have stuff a lot. You would be astounded at the amount of stuff that comes from China. If you do not have, 30, 45, 90 days worth of your prescriptions, I encourage you to do that. Take a look around your home, and if there are things that you can stockpile on, like toilet paper and paper towels and, soap, laundry detergent, frozen vegetables, protein sources, rice, beans, pastas. If you can afford to put in a little bit extra, please do that, because even if there are not severe shortages, there are going to be some increased costs associated with that. And so, why pay $15 for something in 3 weeks when, frankly, you can buy it today for $10, okay? So if you can afford it to put in, to pad things a little bit, I encourage you to do that, because it's not going to be a cakewalk, but it's also not going to be devastating, okay? And the other thing that I just want to point out is that Canada has its response team in place. So unlike the United States, where Trump decimated it, Canada's response team is in place, and they're moving forward, and things are moving in the direction of trying to get funds and resources, et cetera, where they need to go so that they can continue moving forward with the containment and the treatment and that kind of thing. So In some ways, you know what, we're in okay shape. There aren't a lot of cases here yet. Expect that to increase a little bit because this thing has an incubation period of, I don't know, like I think it's 14 days or something like that. So it's very possible that, you know, some of this stuff hasn't been caught yet. But don't panic. If you can get some of your supplies in, I encourage you to do that. There's going to be a bit of a hit, not only in the stock market, but just in terms of the cost of things. But, you know, forearmed is forewarned. Now, the other thing I just want to take a look at is the Liberals across Canada have surged now to, they bypassed the Liberals, so they have surged to a 36% approval rating or support, and the Liberals have now dropped to 33%. And I'm sorry, I do not have the number for the NDP. I tried to find it and I couldn't. So this is indicative of the tension and the stress and the anxiety that people are feeling. And, you know, there is also that sense that, you know, moving forward to create something new is always a little bit painful. It's always a little bit hard. And you don't want to see revolutions and revolts and people reacting kind of with a mob mentality, because when they're threatened, they sort of tend to support or side with the people who want to aggressively fix it. And you know what? You can't fix stuff with aggression. It's never worked before and it's not going to work now. How solid, how secure right now is the Canadian federal government, Canadian federal government, Canadian federal government? Are these guys going to be able to come together, or are they just going to continue to stay in that real adversarial push and pull? Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to do cards on this, but this is an energetic impression I got. It looks right now as if Peter MacKay could very, very well become the leader of the Conservative Party. Whether you like him or not, again, kind of get the feeling that he could very well be part of that Indigo surge. And so he also may have some ideas that are at least a little bit more compatible and forward thinking than, you know, the Kennys of the world. Just saying. It's a heavy time right now. There's a lot going on, but here we have Trudeau, okay? And you've got a victory card here and you've got emotional cards, okay? So again, so this is kind of saying that, you know what, it's really tough right now. There is going to be some stability that comes. Tempers are going to cool. Things are going to be a little hot and heavy for a little bit, but it looks as if things are going to just zen out a bit, okay? A lot of the anxiety and worry is going to give way to a sense of security and safety, and that is going to help pull things back. And again, so that there is at least the feeling that the different parties within the country can come together with some sort of cohesiveness. And I encourage anybody who wishes to reach out to their government officials and perhaps just indicate, let them know that revolution and force is really not going to solve anything. It's not really the Canadian way, and it frankly doesn't sit comfortably for us. Three parties. The three parties are going to have to there's actually four, but the three parties are going to have to come together to heal this. Normally, this is a card of a broken heart or sadness, but actually, I'm actually seeing them as coming together for the heart of the country, for the heart of the country. Okay, so I hope that satisfied some of the questions that people were asking. I know that I don't do Canadian political readings as often, in part because it's not that, well, okay, in part because what's going on in the United States is so tumultuous that I just feel like you kind of really need to keep a closer eye on it. And the other part of it is that Canada as a whole at this point, even with everything that's going on, is not really at that loggerheads where the sides just cannot even figure out how to come together in the middle. And so there's a sense just energetically that we really can work together. It's not as separate and aggressive and angry as we see to our southern neighbors. So, when things get really crazy, it might take me a little bit, but I'm aware of it. I'm mindful, and I'll get some stuff out there. But I do agree, I don't do them often enough. But that's my excuse for good or bad. One final thing I want to say for any of you who watched the deep trance meditation and message, so it wasn't a meditation, it was a message, who have not taken the time to watch that, I do encourage you to. I think it is a really important message that should be shared. When I was in the trance, there was a comment or a statement that was made about the invasion of people from other countries who were displacing the people of the land, the people who actually belonged there, the people who understood it, the people who were there to heal it and grow it, and etc. So there you're talking literally about Indigenous people. But either it was said or the impression was sort of given that they were talking exclusively about the United States. They were not. They were literally talking about the entire land mass of North America. So that includes Indigenous peoples of Canada, America, Mexico. Okay, it was all of them, and it was talking about the invasion, and however, since those invasions have taken place, there really has been an imbalance, and frankly, an imbalance that all countries are going to have to figure out how to heal. All right, that's enough of that. End of lecture. Thank you so very, very much for all of your support of the Soulprint channels. I'm honored that you watch me. I'm humbled, and I very much appreciate all of the support. So hopefully I haven't antagonized anybody. If you're really upset, please don't send me a message, because I don't like the negativity on the channel. So thank you. All right, until next time, take care, be well, and we'll see you really soon. Bye.